Welcome to Bcast, Benesch's business law videocast series. This is where we discuss the most topical legal and business issues. In this edition, we're going to be talking to Rick Hepp, associate in Benesch's Labor and Employment Practice Group. Today, host Eric Zalad is going to talk with Rick about immigration deadlines and demands that employers need to know.
Hello, I'm Eric Zalad, head of the litigation department here at Benesch. I'm here with my colleague Rick Hepp from our Labor and Employment Group. And Rick, a couple questions about our global marketplace. If employers are looking to hire employees from overseas, tell us about this H-1B visa and what are the procedures involved in getting one of those?
Sure. Well, everybody knows that April 15th is one of the big days of the year. It's tax day. For employers who are looking to fill temporary needs, April 1st is the big day of the year because that's the day when you need to get petitions in for H-1B visas. Now, an employer might have a temporary need and they can't fill it with workers from the United States, so they need to look outside the country. And they're allowed to, under the H-1B visa, bring those workers into the United States. And they have to have a specialty occupation, they have to have a bachelor's degree or some work experience that's equivalent to a bachelor's degree. Now, once that's all done, they can file a petition, and that goes to the Department of Homeland Security. But the way the system works is that the federal government has a limited number of H-1B visas that they allow each year. And this year, as it was in past years, there's 65,000 H-1B visas that are allowed. But last year, there were almost 125,000 applications. So you have to file it by April 1st. If you file it after that day, it won't be considered. And last year, for an example, with the 125,000, they had to have a lottery. And so the federal government had a lottery, and they only picked 65,000. So in this case, it's a lot like if you don't play, you don't win. If you don't get your petition in, you don't even get a chance to get an H-1B visa.
So there's a looming deadline to get that talent in the door from overseas.
That's right.
And you mentioned the Department of Homeland Security. Rick, do they have any initiatives or regulations that employers should be aware of or be concerned with?
Well, they do. I mean, for instance, if you want the H-1B visa and you don't get picked in the lottery, employers are wondering what they can do to get around it. Well, the problem is that if they try to do anything that is outside the bounds, they're likely to be either investigated or audited. Last year, there was a company that attempted to skirt the regulations for the H-1Bs, and the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice found out, fined the company $34 million. And not only that, while they were doing the investigation, the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security opened up the books and looked at all of their immigration-related materials. One of the things they did was audit what's called a Form I-9. Now, when you and I and everybody else does get a job in the United States, they have to fill out a Form I-9, which basically is where you live and your immigration status. So they have to fill out part of the form, the employee does, and then the employer has to fill out the rest. And what they do is they look at the documentation that the employee provides. So is it a social security number? Do they have a passport, a birth certificate? If you're an alien who is permitted to work in the country, what forms they have, are they valid currently? So that is something that all employers and employees must do. Now, in the case of the company with the $34 million, the audit turned up a number of discrepancies. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that the Department of Homeland Security will do the audit as part of another investigation. They'll do it on their own. And when they do, they're very technical, and these forms have to be filled out precisely, which is why we recommend that these employers do their own self-audit. So they would have, either they would or they would hire somebody to come in and look at all these forms and do essentially what the Department of Homeland Security would do. But the benefit is that all these problems can be fixed so that in the case of an audit, you're covered. You've already figured everything out and you're not going to be fined as a result.
Sounds like a technical area with some pitfalls there, right?
Yes, there is.
I mean, so for that aspect, do it right, and for the H-1B visa, do it soon, right?
Do it right and do it soon, exactly.
All right, Rick, well, thank you. That's helpful information for all employers. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.